Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our 8th episode of ATD Talks Talent and our last episode of 2020. Today we're talking about 2020, a year in review. My name is Avra Bossov, Manager for Brand Engagement and Strategic Communications here at ATD. And joining me today is Kristen Fyfe-Mills, ATD's Director of Marketing and Strategic Communications. Thanks so much for joining us, Kristen.
It is my pleasure. The way we start is the way we end, right?
Yes. Hopefully that's not the case for 2020. well
it isn't, right? Like, because we were getting ready to go to an in-person conference at the beginning of 2020, and now we're not. So, but all is well. Although I will say, at the beginning of 2020, our team had just moved into some new to us office spaces, and you can see that I am in Boxland because I am moving again.
Yes.
To a different office. So Yay, I guess some things are the same, but.
Well, truly 2020 has been a different kind of year. So what are some things that you're reflecting on as we come to the end of this year?
So many. First of all, I'm in complete denial that it is December 21st. I think we were in a team meeting earlier on Teams, and I was like, yeah, next week. Oh, that's right. Next week's the end of the last week. I was like this kind of thing in my head. A lot of reflecting, right? I think, especially for people in the association space, everybody's had to pivot. But those of us who bring people together in person to learn or network or whatever are going, when are we going to be able to do that again in real life?
Right.
For sure, that's a question that we're asking here. But I've also been thinking about an article that I read by someone in the events industry whose kind of key message was, let's stop talking about getting back to the way things were, because we're not going there, and nor should we. We should be going forward. So what does forward look like, And so just kind of really processing that a lot personally, and for the organization, and how we kind of craft that next normal, because I don't even want to say it's new normal, because there's been a version of new normal this year that I don't think anybody wants to be normal. Can we not have that be normal? But growth is always, it's iterative, right? So what did we learn in 2020 that we can carry forward? And what did we learn in 2020 that we want to leave in 2020?
Right.
So just a lot kind of in that headspace.
Yes, definitely. I mean, for all kinds of industries, not just associations, and it's from an ATD perspective, supporting everyone who helps those employees learn. There's a lot of considerations there.
Yeah, we did a pretty, I will say I'm really proud of a lot of our teams here early on in the pandemic, when it was all like, okay, how do we do this virtual thing? We have so much content and so many great resources on virtual training, and we just kind of pulled that together really quickly. We put it out there for the field. I think it was very well received, and we've been continually bringing new content, new resources. We pivoted all of our courses to online, which was not an insignificant challenge, as well as all of our conferences after our Technology conference in February last year. It's so funny to say that, because I remember we were in San Jose in February, and we were starting to get some panicked calls from people who were planning to fly in from Asia. Right. And the team on the ground there literally went and bought like every bottle of hand sanitizer that they could find. And we're like carrying them around the conference center. We had no concept of what was coming.
No one knew.
And the rate at which it was coming, the power of that, just even that memory, like the little things that we thought then that have just completely been changed and shifted. But the field and the way it's pivoted, I think, is just, there's a million reasons every day why I love working at ATD. This year specifically, just watching how people have literally flipped the way they are doing their work, how they've helped their organizations prepare, and get up to speed, like the change management associated with that, and stepping into spaces like, I've never designed a course on like how to be safe in the office. Now it's a thing I have to do. Like, forget how to upskill on XYZ. I need to help people figure out how to put PPE on the right way, or something like that. So it's been really inspiring to watch that happen across the talent development space.
Agreed. I know. I remember TK being the last time I've been on a plane. So that outside of being an outstanding conference, that was also the last far travel that I've gone on. So what are some of those key takeaways for talent development in 2020? What's changed? What do you think is going to remain the same? What are those things that we can bring forward with us? And what are the things that, we can really leave behind in 2021?
Yeah, a couple of things that I've been thinking about. We've been talking about at the ATD level, but also in the field, like, this idea of digital transformation and learning. Well, it's here. Like, we just accelerated a decade's worth of thinking and doing, and just, was it pretty right off the bat? No. Is there still a lot of things that we need to figure out? Yes, there is, but we did it, right? Like, there is no arguing now that virtual training works and can work. And so even as the world comes back to a place where there is more opportunity to gather face to face, I think this blended learning paradigm is here to stay. I think that what organizations have seen in terms of being able to scale development because of virtual tools is here to stay. And then it becomes a part of refining that, right? And getting better at it and using better tools and the technology that develops to make that all possible. Even thinking about when we had to cancel our international conference, which still just kills me, but it completely had to be done. The convention center was turned into a field hospital. A, can't meet, but B, also the right thing to do. And then creating our first ever virtual conference. And funny, at the end of 2019, I was saying to some people on our team, like, we really need to like experiment with a virtual conference. I still look back on that and I'm like, shut up, Kristen. Like, we don't need to do it. But my point in that is the number of platforms that came online between when we were looking for that first platform and even having wrapped up our latest conference. There is stuff out now that didn't exist in April of this year, so the innovation of people in different spaces kind of coming together to make it happen. And who would have bought Zoom stock in February, but wow, shouldn't we have, because this particular platform is done very well by a lot of people. Also, I would point to something like, we are not being paid by Zoom to do this, but their own embrace of serving people, like making free calls a thing over the holidays so families could connect with you. I mean, it's brilliant, right? Like, what do people need? They need to connect. We have a tool. Let's make it easy for people to do that. I think it's just outstanding. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Things to leave behind. The one size fits all model of learning, right? No. I think a thing to carry forward is the empathy that we have had to embrace with our colleagues, because everybody is just trying to figure out this balance of no separation between work and home and learning. Lessons to carry forward is when you're doing, virtual events, like, how do you build in that margin for people to be able to take care of their kid and feed their dog and still learn great content from a wonderful SME that is, making, resources available. A lot of things that can be left behind, I think, in terms of not even just around the pandemic, but a lot of the social unrest that we witnessed and a lot of the learning that's come from that. Like, are we better people going into 2021 than we were coming into 2020? The work around DE&I that's happening in organizations, long overdue, but wow, let's make sure we do it and
Right.
do it well. And talent development does have a role to play. And we'll be launching a discussion series in January to get that conversation started, which is super exciting. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I mean, like, pick a topic and I'm like, take this forward, leave this behind.
Right. So looking ahead, what do you think we can expect for the learning industry in 2021?
Great question. And everybody wants a crystal ball. I think we're going to see some consolidation on the supplier side. We've already started to see it. Some companies that just were not able to withstand the really the knockout punch that the pandemic provided to a lot of business models. So I think we'll see some consolidation there. I think we are seeing companies kind of scale back, as they typically do with professional development dollars. We saw it in 2009 in that recession, but we didn't see wholesale cuts like we had seen even in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So companies consolidate, and then they position themselves for growth. What we did note in our research year over year is that the companies that are continuing to invest in their people are the ones that will be positioned to outperform. They are outperforming and they'll be positioned to outperforming. So not cutting the training budget, as they say. Key strategic move for organizations. I think the value of the work of the field has been elevated because of how talent development professionals have had to step into the breach, so to speak, and create things kind of out of thin air. It's like, well, you know how to facilitate a meeting. Can you teach our people how to do X, Y, Z? I'm like, yeah,
right.
sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think more agility for sure. Just in the design and delivery of courses, that the concept that face-to-face is the only way to learn, that's gone. We'll see more blended and more virtual, I think, moving forward. Those are just kind of some high-level things, but overall, and the other thing that we hear anecdotally, and you hear it because you are, listening to the customers all day, every day, on social media, people are so hungry to be back together again, and creating those meaningful experiences virtually while we can, but then being prepared for that awkward shift when we are going to be able to be together, but we can't be together the way we used to be together. So, really kind of getting your arms around what is your first in-person class experience going to look like? How are you going to be able to, and we had started thinking about that here when we thought we were going to be able to bring learners back this month, actually, and then spikes and whatever. But, between things like, am I going to have plexiglass between my learners? How am I going to space people around the classroom, where we might have a group of, 25% of a core class working on a flip chart, doing markers, and somebody's scribing, like, is anybody going to want to share markers in the next iteration of the in-person classroom? Or is everybody going to have their own stuff, and have their own little bag of like Post-it notes and things like that? So really kind of thinking through those kind of approaches and protocols and getting that in place, I think is going to be important for people before it happens. Like, plan for it and then plan for the awkwardness of it. We were able to have a couple of in-person deliveries in the third quarter with organizations that asked us to come on site. And how do you have a facilitator that has to speak through a mask? How do you help them make their voices heard for the people in the room? Like, what kind of mic do you get? Do you get a mic? Where does the mic go? Does the facilitator have a, space that they have to move in and they can't step out of it, because they're not going to be wandering around looking over people's shoulders anymore, at least not right off the bat. So, like, figuring all that out ahead of time is going to be very important. And then scale that for events, right? Like,
right.
As we look forward to ATD 2021, how do you move thousands of people around a convention center safely? What does social distancing look like? How do you manage those types of things? So it is actually one of the reasons why we have ATD 2021 3 ways at the end of August and September. So we know people might not be comfortable traveling. They'll be able to either come in person or attend virtually, or host a regional event where they can bring people together in their local areas or businesses and have the conference delivered that way. Super exciting, also terrifying to think about all the logistics. But that's cool, right? That's what innovation is about, and thinking about how to do it broadly and serve people well, and thoughtfully and intentionally, in all those Lee words that are important right now.
Yeah, no, and like you brought up two great points. The first about being innovative. Everyone has to be innovative, because if we're not innovative, we don't survive. Which one could argue that all learning is innovation, because you're learning how to do something differently. And the other thing that I really liked and that resonated with what you said was this idea of how do we come together even if we're not together. There's been a lot of that in 2020. I think as the start of things in person, we know it's coming. We just don't know. Like, we know there's a puzzle that's like coming to us.
Mm-hmm.
We know the pieces, but we don't necessarily have that picture for where we should put the pieces yet. Right. And that's,
and expecting it to be not easy.
Right.
Like, if you think about any conference that you and I have been to, we have a lot of our regulars, and they come and see us and they'll throw their arms around us like, oh, it's so good to see you again. Well, that's not going to happen. And that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard. So how do you get in front of that? Like, how do you make it not, or how do you make it less hard? And then we'll find our way back to, what a next normal looks like. And we'll see what that holds. But, we've chatted on our team, especially, that 2020 was hard because it was just so unexpected and so fatiguing. I think 2021 for a lot of us will be harder in some ways, because it'll be what we've been experiencing and then trying to find the bridge that gets to the next coming out of the pandemic, and then further on down the road when things get back to maybe a little bit of what they look like. But I don't know that we're going all the way back there. I don't know. So
right.
More opportunities to innovate.
Yes. Always. What are some of your goals for 2021?
Oh,
loaded question.
It's funny that so a couple of things on the work side. Obviously, my job, marketing, like helping us have a successful year in 2021, right? Like, we think we've identified all the things and possible other things and challenges, and we have a robust calendar of things that we're bringing to professionals, from events to a new kind of way to learn with us with our on-demand courses, really targeted 90-minute, like super targeted skill development. That's exciting. New books in the pipeline, new research reports, like all of the things. And then planning for this 3-way international conference. Like,
yes,
that's going to be fun. It actually is going to be amazingly fun, but not easy. And just helping our team, right, do better work, right? Like, let's use some AI in our marketing. Let's figure some stuff out that we've been talking about wanting to figure out for a while. And let's move that needle this year, like, not sit there and go, oh, 2020, like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, that would be like my major goal. Could I just like, no, not freak out on 2020. On the personal side, I think it's really about making my own time to learn. I was reminded recently that I don't receive well. Like, I'm a giver by nature. I'm just like, oh, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And somebody was like, you know what, you just need to sit down and keep your hands open and receive. And I was like, maybe that should be a goal. Like, how do I even do that? I don't even know what that means. Like, I need to dig into that a little bit more. So learning more about what that means for me, I've got two adult children. One of them is going to be going to grad school next year. So getting ready for that next phase of life will be very exciting, and hopefully going to a conference or two in person in the third and fourth quarter. That would be amazing.
Yes.
Even if it's an ATD conference, doesn't have to be something for myself. Well, those are for myself. I love that. I love doing that. So
Yes.
How about you, Avra?
Oh, you're turning it back.
2021.
I mean, this goes for personal and professionally, these ideas of agility and innovation. And really, I think my word for the year is going to be endurance, right? Because a lot of the things that have happened over the last 9 or so months are not going away, or are changing again, or are continuing to iterate, as we've talked about. So this idea of, okay, great, this is happening, how can we do it? And being in the long game, right? One of my favorite books that I've read in 2020 was The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And I've been thinking about that a lot with the pandemic and with work and just with, a lot of the things that I think provided those short-term gains or those little wins or things like that have kind of been stripped away. And in doing so, I'm focusing more on that infinite game, the long term.
Yeah, I think the long game is really critical. And I think if I was going to say something that for all of us in 2021, like seeing that vision of where we're headed and understanding, like with any kind of goal, like there's something that comes before each thing. And the first thing is showing up on January 4th, right? Like,
yes.
Show up. Yeah, I really like that. We've chatted before, like, I think one of the things that you asked me, like, what's something that's not on your LinkedIn.
That's coming later.
I know, but did I talk about the Appalachian Trail then?
I honestly don't remember.
I don't either. Anyway, I won't say it again, but I will say in terms of the long game, like, when you set up for like a big hike, like for people that hike the whole trail, you can get really overwhelmed by every climb when you see a mountain. And then usually when you're looking at a mountain and you think you see the summit, you turn a corner and then the actual summit is like further up and you're just like, oh.
Yep.
That's a little bit of like what 2020's felt like every month felt like another turn around the mountain, but it's not the destination, it's the journey, right? Yes. And so how do we show up for each other, for ourselves, for each other, and for the people that we serve, and realize that we're like, unlike a lot of other things, we really are journeying through this together. There aren't a lot of things happening societally that affect people, and this isn't affecting everybody equally, but everybody has a 2020 story,
Yes, definitely.
So
yeah,
that's a lot of words. I'm not sure I actually said something, but maybe something was useful in that.
There always is, Kristen. There always is.
No, I don't know about that.
So we've talked a lot when we were talking about like what's staying the same and what has changed. We've talked about all of that acceleration that we've experienced in 2020. What do you think the implications of this accelerated change are on the future of work? Like, what does the future of work mean to you on this side of 2020 versus when we were talking about planning a future of work conference this time of year?
Funny.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, we did fold that event into our second virtual conference. And
yeah.
I think the more I think about it, I think the future of work as a term probably means something different to everybody depending on their industry. Like if you've got AI embedded in your daily job a lot, like the future of work means something completely different to you than somebody who is just getting out of college maybe and is probably right now looking for a job because, market being what it is. But I think one of the things I heard somebody say this year that really resonated with me was the future of work is now. Like this change, this acceleration, this may be the slowest pace of change and acceleration that we will ever experience again, like this right now. So when you think about that in terms of agility, I think it is that the mindset that comes with seeking change, not for change's sake, but change that improves a process, a business, a relationship, a whatever. I think that is a key piece of what work in the future looks like. I do also think that we will see a paradigm shift in education. I think the concept that a 4-year degree from a brick and mortar university is a must-have, I don't see that being something that people are going to want to carry forward for much longer. Sorry, all of you that work in higher ed. I think there is higher ed that's happening, but I think it's going to look very different. And we've seen lots of different responses at the country level, the nation level with the pandemic. What, the hope would be that people would learn from each other. What worked, what didn't work, what needs to change, as we look at the rollout even of the vaccine, like the where it's going, what countries it's going to, and what countries it's not going to, and the reasons why. Like, let's change that. So it's not a question of who's got what and who doesn't have what to be able to impact something like this. I was also reflecting too on not necessarily about the future of work, but how the past can inform the future. So past is prologue. When you look at the Spanish flu in 1918, 500 million people dead from that. Now, some people will say, well, they didn't have yeah, they didn't have the technology that we have. So maybe they didn't have the travel that we had, but it was still this pervasive thing. And then coming after that, there were, lots of things that were globally impacted. And out of that came the greatest generation, right? This mindset, heart set, if you will, of people who had this collective experience and took that forward in a different kind of service to others. I think that, if that could be what work in the future looks like, sign me up all day, every day.
I know
it is a hard issue, right? It's not just stuff.
Yes. No, that's very true. I was going to say that I'm your, number one source of memes. And I did see a meme about that shift from, to the 20s. And it's like, I understand now why everyone wanted to dress up for everything and go paint the town.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
So not to
minimize the experience,
minimize any of the suffering, but on a lighter note, I think, when it's safe to do so, I think we're going to see a similar outpouring of joy and celebration.
Lots of sequence.
Yes.
Of sequence.
Yes.
Bling.
Yes. So before we get to those repeating questions, just what is some advice that you have for talent development professionals to really ground their work in this coming year? And I apologize if you can hear my dog whining because she wants attention. So,
hi, Luna. She might get to make her YouTube debut. Advice. I think maybe not less advice and more just encouragement. And that would be that the work matters, probably now more than ever. Learning is what will fuel work in the future. I'm going to see how much I cannot say future work. And the work of the field, the work of each talent development professional that's watching this it matters. It matters in the life of your learners. It matters because of those aha moments that you create. It matters because of the trajectory that you can impact in somebody's life because they took that course at that moment that changed everything. I remember doing a presentation for a pharma company, and they were talking about some training challenges that they had. And I asked them, I said, when you're talking to your learners, do you ever talk to them about the grandma who's going to take this drug and whose life is going to be radically impacted because of the work that they are doing? And they're like, no, we've never done that before. It's about making meaning, right? Like, so find the meaning in the everyday and that one story that you can go back to, or those one or two stories that you can go back to, and you'll be like, this is why I show up every day. Because I think that's advice for all of us, right? Like, there's those one or two moments where somebody's just like, because of that thing that you did, or you taught me, or that whatever, X, Y, and Z changed for me. Like, be that kind of change maker. Because at the end of the day, the talent development people can do that, right? Like, that is it.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we forget in the daily slog, the endurance mindset, that there's growth that's happening daily for people that are engaging in the content that we're delivering or creating, which is pretty freaking cool. Not everybody gets to say that.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
inspiring as always, Kristen.
Yeah, well, I won't remember what I just said. Good thing this is recorded. Maybe should I write it down and include it in
something? So you hinted at your answer for this earlier, but these are the 3 questions that we ask everyone. What is a skill or experience not listed on your LinkedIn profile?
A skill or experience not listed on my LinkedIn profile. An experience. So I mentioned briefly the Appalachian Trail. Yes, I did hike that 30 years ago. And then the year after that, I rode my bicycle across the country, which may have contributed to the knee surgery that I had last Friday. So
perhaps
a little wear and tear on the joints. Yeah, those 2 things. I had my quarter life crisis about right on time. Look it up; it's a thing. And took a couple years to just experience journeys in a different context. So still touchstone experiences.
Amazing. Thank you. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think I gave you the best piece of advice I ever received the last time we talked about this. So let me give you a different piece of advice.
What's the second best piece of advice?
Everybody's got a story, and you might only be seeing one slice in one day or one moment of that story. So don't judge too harshly.
That is a good theme of empathy for this year, and definitely going into next year too. I hope that empathy doesn't go away. Right. I hope that's something that we continue.
That we're not fatigued of. I'm tired of being empathetic. Stop it, everybody, go away. Although I will add one more piece of advice that I just learned in a course that I'm taking to prepare myself to be a better hybrid people manager, which is when it comes to online meetings, cameras on, mics on. Period. Dot. Like, show up and be all there and don't multitask.
I would say unless there's an echo, absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were some caveats, like your screaming child, or
yes,
the drill of the handyman, or
whining dog,
whatever.
all those things.
But,
yes,
I think a lot of us
great advice, though.
Have got into the habit of camera, like, I'm not talking, I'll mute myself, but it really actually inhibits conversation. And the whole multitasking thing, we're all guilty of it. Like, oh, I have my browser open over here. Let me just quickly answer this email while I'm pretending to listen. Or worse, move the thing you're working on onto the screen that your camera's on, and you're like, oh, but I'm actually just typing an email right now.
We also both wear glasses, so that's a little
true.
A little bit of a telltale sometimes.
That's true. I don't get that close to my screen. Like, what is the reflection in Avra's glasses? But I thought that was really good advice. Because I think it's easy to I don't want to tell people that they have to have their cameras on and their microphones unmuted. But we might be experimenting with that advice as a team in 2021, at least to start, until people tell me they hate it, and then we might change, but we might keep it. So there you go.
Well, it's a good notion of being present, right? And so if you don't actually need to be on a meeting, and if you are multitasking, don't go, right? So it's that idea too. I mean, going back to what my goals are for 2021, is this notion of also being present, and how, if I'm sitting here focused on, I want this pandemic to be over, which I certainly do, and that wish will not go away. But if I dwell on that versus appreciating the moment and actually being present with what we have and the well of gratitude there, that's totally different. And I think that applies to meeting culture for sure, in the virtual environment where, I think I know which course you're talking about. And I think I also remember hearing this notion of, all meetings having agendas, and does it have to be a meeting, and what are those other ways of accomplishing goals for that? So
yeah, I think there was another shift that happened this year, and maybe we need to tweak our thinking around it. Was, there's lots of conversations about meeting culture, and ATD's meeting culture is what it is, but I think we took some of what we were trying to accomplish in our in-person meetings, and they're just like, forget it. We're all on Teams, whatever, but I think there is something about the intentionality of that's important. So
yes,
yeah,
definitely. Okay, last question, Kristen, because I know you and I could talk for another hour.
We could put everybody to sleep. So
what are some things that you're looking forward to over the next month or so?
Well, the holidays are right here, aren't they? Yeah. So next month or so, well, I'm looking forward to getting the full function of my knee back.
Yes.
It's not fully functional. It's better than it was, but still a little rehab needs to, or PT. I am looking forward to just some downtime, and I don't make enough time for reflection. One of my mentor, and I mean, not mentor because he's not mentoring me personally, but the person that I learned from just by the body of his work is John Maxwell, which probably everybody is like, oh yeah, John. Anyway, he has this habit, though I think the last couple weeks of the year, I don't do this, but someday maybe, goes back and looks at his calendar from January 1st through and asks himself questions about every day.
Wow.
Is what I did on that day was it the highest and best use of my time? And then just kind of taking all of that, what should I have done differently? What opportunities did I say no to that I could have said yes to? What did I say yes to that I should have said no to? And setting that intention going into the new year. I'm not going to get that prescriptive, but or not reflective with myself, but just making some time to think about, all right, what were the lessons of 2020? Truly, what were they?
Yeah.
What were the areas of growth that I was hoping to embrace and did or didn't? I am doing some professional development over the next month and change that I'm pretty excited about. So being able to apply that or share that learning with the team is going to be really cool. So yeah, I think it's getting out of the charge mode and into more of a reflect and plan versus just, Groundhog Day, sit down, open up the meetings and just go all day long. I'm looking forward to not having any meetings starting Wednesday until the 4th of January.
Excellent.
Mostly. Okay. Yeah. How about you? What are you looking forward to? I know. Just because, you get to ask all the questions.
Yes. I also know that with your background, it's hard for you to just answer the questions and not be able to ask them. Things I'm looking forward to over that exercise, I think for 2020 would look dramatically different than any other year with just the amount of Netflix I've watched, Teams meetings I've been on, books that have sat on my shelf literally behind me that I have not read yet, right? Like all those things. But I'm also looking forward to kind of taking stock and, asking myself personally and professionally, what are those things that I do want to take into next year, and what can stay the heck back and not follow me? Thanks. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was really thinking I might have read more books this year, but the ones I read were good.
Yeah.
Maybe finding more time for reading books, because I like them on paper better than like audio. I mean, I don't mind audiobooks, but I want a dog ear. Sorry, all you book lovers. I'm a dog ear page person, and pens and highlighters. It's awful. And wonderful at the same time.
Yes. Okay. Any parting words for our lovely guests?
Just wishing everybody a healthy, safe, like when did we ever say, hey, have a safe holiday? But now it takes on like
a whole
really significant meaning. Healthy, safe, happy, content, joy, like those things. And all the re's: recharge, reflect, rejoice. Mm-hmm. Those things that make you happy, that bring you joy.
Amazing.
Bring you joy.
Amazing.
And we will see you in 2021. Also, if you have some advice for Avra and I about how you'd like to see this show transform in 2021, leave a comment.
Yes. So yes, as Kristen said, we will be back in January with more episodes of ATD Talks Talent. If there is a topic that you want, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Keep up the great work. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. If you have,
the 5 of you,
and really have a great holiday season and the new year.